WARHAMMER nasza ósma. I can't say Dagger Daxi. Beastmen, Chaos Good. Whoa, Agoda.
The big brass bull is here. Yes, Taurox in all his glory, looking absolutely awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look, and what better way to introduce him than have him beat down some of the most hated lords currently in the game. So, starting out with Grom the Paunch, obviously. We've got Taurox here. Just quickly, let's get to the builds, and then we'll come back and talk about him more specifically. Of course, in this build, Samurai Warrior here brought the Gorgon and a Jabberslythe, both looking absolutely horrendously awesome. The Gorgon like a big old Minotaur beast with 4 arms, and blades and stuff, and then, of course, we've got the disgusting Jabberslythe. A few Chaos Spawn, a few Ungor Spearmen. We've got some Ungor Raiders. No, just like all Rush here. Got some Warhounds. Bray Shaman Lore of Death on his new Chariot, very fancy Tuskor Chariot, a little bit cheaper than the Razorgore, and also has Vanguard. Also love the new color scheme for the Bray Shamans. Looking very swag in that purple. Up against my Greenskins, I've got Grom the Paunch, a bunch of Skirmish Cavs, 6 obligatory Skirmish Cav, or Chariots, which did get a little bit of a buff. Price reduction, I should say. Goblin Big Boss, Orc Shaman, we've got the Swamp Things for Terror, Black Orcs, 8-Peak Loons, some Goblins, Savage Orc Air Boys, and then of course Grom, who did get an HP nerf, it looks like. I want to say he was like 5,000 before, now down to 3,900. But anyway, let's get back to the star of this video, Taurox himself. So what does he bring? Well, very strong monstrous infantry fighter type lord, has fire damage baseline, which is going to be great against Grom and a number of other targets. Also in Game 3, this will reduce healing on contact, so that's a nice kind of future proofing for him. He's also got your typical Minotaur abilities, Blood Greed, Minotaur character abilities. Slaughterer's Call has been buffed, so when in melee gives 10 melee attack, 10% charge, 8 leadership, very nice. He's also got a couple of abilities that charge up while in melee. So you see here these little cooldowns. This is also another improvement that's been made to the game, is cooldowns for a lot of characters and units are now visible on their unit card as if they were active abilities. So you can see here Rune Tortured Axes and Blood Greed. Both will charge up while in melee. Engaged in melee, right, is the recharge if. And you've got a 60-second start charge timer for that and for this here Rune Tortured Axes. So once he gets both of those, he's going to get plus 15 melee attack, a considerable amount of weapon strength. Also has this brass body, activatable, 41-second, 40% damage resistance, and 24 melee defense. Very comparable, actually, to Grom's Lucky Banner, but, you know, defense instead of attack. Speaking of Grom, he's already getting him mixed up here as we engage. Jabberslythe running in. Jabberslythe has really strong animations, as you'll see. Likes to dive around, get a lot of damage done. I'm going to fire in with my air boys, try and get some damage. I do want to focus the Jabberslythe because I feel like it's the most threatening to all of my infantry here. But a nice play by Samurai Warrior getting in with the Chaos Warhounds, Poison Warhounds, disrupting my Skirmish Cav. The Bray Shaman also going to punch back there, generate some more value. Here we go, the Jabberslythe and Taurox diving in. Taurox going to do a lot of damage here to the Swamp Things as he starts to charge up his abilities. Brass Body popped immediately just to make sure he doesn't take any damage at all. I mean, there's Black Orcs in here as well, so probably a wise idea. Nice Doom and Darkness is actually probably going to rout the Swamp Things. Let's see, right now they're holding for the time being. Taurox also has an explosion which will give burnt, I want to say, in a nearby area of effect. I don't know if he actually brought that here. Does not look like he did, but could potentially help leadership stack against Swamp Things with that Doom and Darkness. Still, though, it is enough to rout them. That's an unfortunate loss for me, and he just, like, cleans house. Between him and the Gorgon, they take a lot of damage. I don't lose too many models, but still. Meanwhile, the backline is just an absolute shambles. Chaos Spawn bogging down Grom the Paunch, who has to pop all of his stuff to try and survive. I mean, he is punching the spawn pretty hard, to be fair. But the skirmish cavalry situation is not great for me. They're not able to kind of sit and fire at the targets I need them to. I mean, these ones are doing exactly what I want, which is kind of a nice rear attack on the Jabberslythe, but The Black Orcs are the best spearmen. Anyone who's played multiplayer for any length of time knows. What I mean by that is they have the most HP per model of any infantry unit in the game, I believe. I'd have to double check, but also they have extremely good mass. They're in the top kind of 1 to 5%, I would say, in terms of mass. While being popped here is also going to put them up to 60 melee attack, a massive 55 weapon strength. So, you know, Taurox you might think would take some damage here, but I mean, he's not really in contact with that many of them at a time. And he's also just beating the crap out of them, it must be said. Absolutely covered head to toe in blood. Very appropriate. Meanwhile, in the periphery there, Bray Shaman's been doing a great job. He's seen off my caster with his chariot there. I did notice the Tuskor chariot seems to have pretty solid animations. I've been mismicroing my own boar chariots, charging them into spawn, which is a little bit hopeless, but hey, trying to keep him off the Savage Orc Air Boys at least for another moment there. What is that? Doom and Darkness on Grom. He's not going to rout, maybe? Will he tear a rout? No. I mean, he's immune to psychology anyway, so he's all good. That being said, Skirmish Cav getting chased off here. Hound's just generally doing a good job chasing routing units. Very important against the Greenskins. We've just about finished off the Jabberslythe, but keep in mind the whole time that the Black Orcs, not only are they taking damage in melee, obviously, from the Jabberslythe and from Taurox himself, Jabberslythe also acts as a bit of a Mortis engine. I will have videos specifically on the Jabberslythe and the Gorgon coming up. Gonna have unit and lord and hero highlights for all the new stuff, so be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification if you want to watch more. But for here, looks like the Black Orcs are just about done, and Taurox not really taking much. 130 armor is actually really good against this kind of low-tier non-AP missiles. Basically, the further you go above 100, the better it is, up until, you know, you may get some diminishing returns. It must be said, but I mean, just going like 130 to 160 range is very, very strong. Going to make non-armor piercing attacks do very little, but things are looking pretty grim for me. Grom the Paunch is going to come in and try and not get surrounded by single entities here. Samurai Warrior doing his best to try and trap me in, and more than anything, I just want to stay away from Taurox because he will destroy me. You can see he's all charged up right now. Blood Greed and Rune Tortured Axe is both active. 575 weapon strength, goes up to 78 attack with the Slaughterer's Call in melee there. So just the stacking buffs on him, once he gets charged up in melee, are incredibly strong. He punches way above what his base stats would seem, which are already pretty good, it must be said. That melee defense and the damage resistance as well. He is a true powerhouse fighter lord, probably the strongest individual fighter of monstrous infantry lords in the game. I will be comparing him to like Throg, Nakai, and some others after the fact. I've also got another replay featuring another hated OP lord, but currently Grom is running for his life away from this horde of disgusting beasts. Boar Chariots are going to come back momentarily and distract. I do also have the Swamp Things back, so we're going to try and do our best as long as Grom, I mean, he's got plenty of healing cap space left. I figure if I've got, you know, some mobile units out in the periphery, can continue to chase routing units while fulfilling the attacking role. Maybe, just maybe, we can get back in this fight. So we're going to fast forward a little bit through this kind of late game phase as I attempt to do that. Taurox and the Gorgon just sticking together, which is honestly smart. Swamp Things here, Doom and Darkness, are they going to rout? Ooh, from the Poison Warhounds? This would be bad. Does look like the Bray Shaman charges in, and they rout. Very unfortunate situation. Down to 7 unit models there, so that's not great. Still got the 8 peak loons, though. We're barely holding off army losses as Grom gets caught up a little bit in the woods here. We're going to pop the Grey in his here, mostly just for the leadership to keep him from routing. And try and pull away there. See if we can't use these literal 3 8-peak loons to screen. Somehow, I guess the terror kicks in. These guys come back from route briefly and actually terror out some of the hounds and such. So if I can get the Swamp Things operational and online, fighting in this combat, maybe get these other skirmish cav who are way over chasing right now back into the fold. I mean, it looks very grim on balance of power, but maybe, I mean, Grom is just OP enough to try and still pull this fight out, especially if we can do some good damage to the Gorgon at range, which, granted, I don't really have any ammunition to do that, but still. Anything helps. Boar Chariot shatters there, to be expected. And actually, we do rout the Jabberslythe. So really, the Gorgon's the main source of terror, which, I mean, granted, most of my army at this point's not weak to terror, besides just the skirmish cav. We also do have this one random Savage Orc that I might remember. We'll see. Anyway, At this point, we're going to get the Swamp Things into combat, try and brace with them a little bit, just continue to fight for a while. They'll probably finish off the spawn. They might even be able to finish off the Ungors, but this is going to allow Grom to attempt to cycle charge here. I say attempt because Lucky Banner, once that's off, I'm pretty much not going to even try because Taurox is so scary. But I figure if I can come in, get a few attacks on the Gorgon, its armor's debuffed right now. From the armor sundering from Axe of Grom, everything else is in my favor. So we do manage to rout the Gorgon, but my folly. At this point, the Swamp Things are just about to rout. Wolf Rider Archers also about to rout, and boom, there it is. Just a couple of attacks from Taurox is all it takes with how low Grom is. He routs, and that is immediately going to lead to army losses. So just like that, horn in the back, you know, flabby back, and Taurox takes the win. Very cool stuff. Honestly, Taurox is a beast, quite literally and figuratively, just an absolute powerhouse. Didn't quite pay for himself potentially here. We'll have to look at his loadout later on, but still quite good. Bratium and Lord of Death also very solid. Jabberslythe, the Gorgon is decent, but the Jabberslythe in particular I think is going to be very strong against Greenskins, Vampire Counts, a few others potentially when you need to face off against hordes of chaff, or else like lots of elite infantry, maybe don't have the best missiles. Granted, Greenskin skirmish cav still very dangerous, even with the nerfs. They are still quite strong. All the Wolf Rider Archers paid for themselves pretty much. Spider Riders not quite so much, but still decent. The Board Chariots are only 750 now. I did kind of mismicro them, to be fair. But good job limiting the Black Orcs. They didn't pay for themselves. 8 Peak Loons still do. And the Orc Air Boys, kind of a mostly good. My character squad, yeah, poor Gobbo Big Boss, rest in peace. Grom the Paunch still quite strong, even after the HP nerfs. Not going to be quite as oppressive. I think, was it HP or maybe melee defense or possibly both? I'll need to check. Maybe one of you guys can go check, actually, and let us know in the comments. Excuse me. But, yeah, great stuff for Taurox. In general, the spawn's pretty good here. Great hound play for sure from Samurai Warrior. All the hounds pay dividends. And then some, one of them actually doubling up on its value there. So great stuff. Really fun game, I have to say. Speaking of which, let's go to the next game. I'm going to switch to Bretonnia. Yes, that's right. The Fey Enchantress. Next up, the Fey Enchantress. Yes, not that I've seen. She doesn't have any changes that I've seen. But anyway, let's not talk too much about her and go back to the Beastmen real quick. So we do get to see the Tuskor Chariots in action now, and the Wargor, new hero. You can see Tuskor Chariots all have Vanguard deployment, nice armor-piercing charge bonus, lighter armor, and less HP than the more expensive Razorgore Chariots, but honestly, probably going to be a more cost-effective option. Anyway, we've got the Wargor leading a unit of Tuskor Chariots, bunch of Ungor Spearmen, Bestigor, 2 Bestigor, very solid choice here. Great weapons, as we know, are still good against Cav. I don't think they've changed that based on testing I've done. Taurox the Brass Bull leading the way, Jabberslythe, Bratium, and Lord Wild also on the Tuskor Chariot. Hounds out wide. And for myself, we've got Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, 4 Knights of the Realm, Fey Enchantress, Double Paladin, of course, Beast Slayers of Bastone, of course, because Beast Slayers. Bunch of Peasant Archers, focusing immediately on the Jabberslythe. Maybe in hindsight this is a mistake, maybe I should be highlighting the Brass Bull, but my front line is going to crumble remarkably quickly. Oh yeah, Viletide also got a rework. I guess we can talk about the spells. Maybe we'll do it another time. Anyway, just immediately front line getting crumbed. You can see the chariots riding through. Fey Enchantress, I looked like the Gore was casting that, but no, the Wargore is not casting. In fact, Fey Enchantress is casting Dwellers Below over there to try and do some damage to those Bestigor herd, but it doesn't look like it's actually doing a whole lot to them. Definitely destroying some Ungors. But where is Taurox? He's here with the Wargore, just chatting his way through all this cavalry and everything. Oh man, look at that brutal attack animation. Things are getting very loud. I apologize for the game sound being probably a little bit too loud up close there. But anyway, just watch. I'll keep the health bars up. So normally 3v1 single entity engagements like the 3 single entities would win. Now it's 3v2, so things are a little bit more even. But look at Taurox just taking no damage. 24 extra melee defense puts him up to 76 plus the damage resistance. The chariots are also sort of mass blocking a little bit here. As is the Wargore. You can see the Wargore is actually taking quite a few hits from the Paladins, but Taurox is not. He is just administering an unrighteous beatdown, and one paladin gets straight up killed already. Like, holy cow, and the other one immediately getting destroyed. Favor of the Fae doesn't do anything. Just a handful of attacks from Taurox, and he is sufficiently defeated. So all of a sudden the Fae Enchantress is all alone. I'm going to have to panic cast a little comet here to try and spring myself loose. Maybe it'll land on the Jabberslythe if it charges through. Nope. But at the very least, I do manage to get the Fae Enchantress out of that situation. The rest of the battle is basically going about as poorly as you can imagine. Hounds breaking and Bestigors just absolutely rampaging through everything. I also did horribly miss Micro My Knights of the Realm, it should be said, but at the same time, I mean, they didn't really have a lot of opportunities to do too much. Yeah, in hindsight, definitely focusing the Brass Bull. I mean, not that my archers would have done much damage to him, but Knights of the Realm maybe could have taken care of the Jabberslythe. Probably should have microed them a little better to take out the Chariots as well, but you live and learn. Didn't really have much that could take on the Bestigor besides the Fae Enchantress draining them out, so losing that single entity engagement so heavily, I mean, obviously that's a huge part of why I lost as well. Paladin's just getting absolutely destroyed, so Taurox and his Beastmen going to pull back to some supporting units here. Doesn't want to get too overextended, which makes sense. Bestigor are going to clean up this entire phase of the battlefield along with the Hounds there. Pretty much no hope for me, but let's see if we can't rally the Knights and make something happen. Try and at least, like, take out this Bray Shaman on the Tuskor Chariot. Speaking of which, haven't really got a good close-up of the Tuskors yet. Let's go ahead and go cinematic insert cam, and look at those boys. Look at those piggies. I love, again, the coloring of the Shamans for the different Lords of Magic is a nice touch. Oh yeah, zoom out a little bit there. You can get a wider angle, see the pigs' faces. They do look like happy pigs, it must be said. Oh yeah, look at them. Having a grand old time. A little bit less spiky than the full Razorgors. Just Tuskors, you know, but still awesome. Awesome stuff. Yeah, Knights of the Realm do come back. We managed to crump one unit of Bestigor, but still they stand up and do a lot of damage in return. The Enchantress is away somewhere. Yep, trying to chase off that dude, so she's not around to help drain or support leadership. Everything terror routes, and that's army losses once again. So very well played, the Samurai Warrior, and nice to see, honestly, Taurox beat down two of the most hated lords in the current meta. And I figured y'all would enjoy seeing that as well, even if he didn't actually get that much damage value. I mean, Paladins are undercosted, for sure. So, I mean, you add the two of them together, and I think they're maybe about 1,000 points worth of value. So just killing those two, I mean, doesn't quite pay for itself, but tactically, in fact, does pay for itself. The rest of the army as well, 100 kills, not that much value on the Wargor, or sorry, on the Bray Shaman. Actually, more value, less kills on the Wargor. He does pretty decently in the cav engagements, it seems, as well. Ungor Spearman Herd perform very well against Bretonnia. Bestigor is also, again, just cleaning up lots and lots of kills, lots of value. Did manage the Jabberslythe fairly well, but everything else basically paid for itself. So, the Tuskor Chariots, I believe, are 750. We'll look at that in just a second. But, yeah, I mean, Taurox, absolute Chad. Just destroyed my entire army. And nothing paid for itself, basically. Anyway, let's go ahead and just talk quickly about Taurox some more. Yeah, fully kitted out, coming in at 2,300 points, pretty expensive. That being said, against factions that have decent leadership, I don't know if I would take this Blood Beast. That is something you could potentially cut. I don't know, I need to test the explosion damage to see how much it actually does. Could be helpful for bailing yourself out of infantry blobs as well, but I don't know. It's something. Slaughter's Call is definitely very good. Brass Body is definitely very good. And Rune Tortured Axes, I would pretty much take all of them, unless you specifically need to cheap out for something else. But finally, Gorbul's got a leader, and what it does mean also, if you have Gorbul fighting with him, you can fully cut him down, and, you know, just take, if you want Axe of Men, but really, you could take him completely naked, and he'd still be quite strong, alongside Taurox. Yeah, just the fire damage. Obviously, in Game 3, this is also going to mean that he'll reduce healing. Currently, what it means is he's great against any unit which has regeneration or innate weakness to fire. Automatically, he's going to be the choice against Greenskins, specifically because he counters Grom so well. Also, against Norska, he'll be a really strong tool. I mean, like, poor Throg, man. Throg's significantly less expensive. Let's look at the base price, in fact, and maybe do some comparisons. You guys, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, know I love my comparisons. So 1,600 base cost, the same for both of these guys. Taurox picks up an extra 75 armor, does have less HP overall, and no regeneration, but again, in a specific head-to-head, that's actually a liability against Throg. Throg does have more effective weapon strength and melee attack against Taurox because, yeah, well, I mean, I say effective melee attack. When Taurox is charged up in melee, we saw there, he'll be above the, what is it, 78? 88, sorry. So no, Throg still has more effective melee attack even after all the charge-ups, and more weapon strength as well, but less defense. And, or no, Taurox actually, yeah, slightly less defense than Throg. But everything else, like leadership, speed, the armor is significant. 130 armor is actually really good. Like, the further you go above 100, basically the better it gets until around, like, 160-ish. Then you kind of start to see some diminishing returns, but, like, 130 is very, very good, must be said. And, yeah, charge as well. Really, though, I know everyone wants to see the true comparison. And I haven't talked about Lizardmen yet. We'll get to the boy in a second here, but Nikai, I don't think got any balance changes. Did they give him, what, minus 50 cost? But, like, look at the difference in charge bonus, man. 22 extra charge bonus on Taurox. Does have less weapon strength overall. I guess 20 less weapon strength, so that kind of balances things out somewhat. But Taurox, 7 more melee defense, 7 less melee attack. Of course, again, gets charged up to have just straight up better stats. More leadership, more armor. I mean, for 50 more points, you also get Slaughter's Call rather than Cold-Blooded. I will say, Nikai is still pretty bad in comparison. Taurox is pretty strong. You get the fire damage as well, which is going to be really good, especially going forward. Yeah, Taurox is a beast, quite literally. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.